Welcome, everyone, to Rising Out of the Chrysalis with Marisa Grace, where we share life stories of struggle and triumph, not only of my own life experiences, but also through the experiences of my guests, as a way to help you have breakthroughs and find hope in your own life. I'm Marisa Grace, and welcome. So today I wanted to talk about depression. And I've done a podcast previously where I spoke about my own depression journey and how I found purpose. But today I want to talk about depression when it comes to dealing with a family member or friend that is going through depression and you're affected by it. Directly have to deal with that person on a day-to-day basis and how that struggle within that person is affecting your life. So from my own experience, the story that I have is of my own husband. So a few years back, due to an injury, he ended up into a really deep depression because he couldn't handle the pain. And often a lot of folks will end up into a depression or anxiety due to, an illness, an injury, or when they're dealing with a lot of pain due to injuries and they can't handle the pain. Oftentimes they will fall into depression. So it's not always due to trauma or past trauma or life circumstances. A lot of times it's triggered by, pain or injuries, or some other thing that, an illness that will trigger that depression. And for him, that was the case. He just couldn't handle the pain. It was so severe that he ended up getting very depressed. Now, to describe, what he went through. So his depression ended up being severely debilitating for him, where he just didn't have the willpower to have any motivation or any life force to do anything. So he would just sleep all day, didn't want to get out of bed. I would leave the house in the morning to go to work. He would be laying down, sleeping. I would come back from work and he would still be sleeping. Just didn't have the will to get up and do anything. It was really hard for him to, he was dealing with a pain and then getting depressed to the point that, even the doctors were getting frustrated with him because whatever help they offered to fix the issue that he had to alleviate the pain, he, would reject it. He's just the type of person that, didn't want to have major surgeries or be on severe medication. So he ended up suffering a lot from it and for quite a few years. And that really impacted, me and impacted our child just around the time that, he got injured. I was also pregnant with our first child. So I went through a very difficult period just dealing with being the only functioning adult in the house, having to deal with him not feeling good, being in pain, being very depressed, not motivated to do anything, and also having a child, a newborn to deal with, and not having the extra help to help me deal with both things. So I was pretty much on my own. And it was very difficult for me. And to deal with him, I kind of had to kind of put him aside and neglect, not really focus on him so much just so I can be on survival mode. Meaning, my focus was I wanted to raise our child as normal as I could without being impacted by um, her dad being so depressed and not being able to be involved in her life. And even though I tried my best, it still did impact her. You know, there are things in life you just cannot um, stop from happening. And that was something I could not have prevented from happening, whether he would have left the house or stayed in the house. Um, Either way, she was going to be impacted by um, whatever we were going through. But I try to make the best out of it for her and give her at least be the parent that, you know, was there and focused and doing things with her all the time, knowing that he couldn't participate. And some days it was very hard because I wanted him to participate as a family and do things with us. But it was very difficult because, he was so depressed that he would make the whole event very difficult for us. Do you want to come with us to this event? No, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave the house. And we would just go back and forth. And then at the last minute, he would change his mind and then wanted to go. So it was almost like dealing with another child that was just having really bad tantrums all the time. So eventually, he did accept help, and I was able to slowly get him out of the depression, get him out of the house, and get motivated. I knew if I could get him out of the house and involved in doing things and slowly do some work, that he can deal. It was like part-time work where I knew if he was out and just doing something that made him feel good about himself, it was a step towards the right direction. That's what we did. We took very small steps of, okay, we'll just work 2 hours a day, whatever you could handle. And as he got better, then the jobs got better. And he was able to handle them and be more functioning. And now, he's depression free, still has minor anxiety, because that was the other thing he also had. Then he developed severe anxiety. And I think the anxiety was worse to deal with than the whole depression. And the anxiety, just makes you very anxious and very nervous and on the edge about everything and worried about every little thing. He would get in the car and be worried about every pothole on the road, and it was just have a panic attack. And that was very nerve-wracking and very difficult to deal with. And I didn't want him to have these panic attacks in front of our daughter because, it was going to impact her. So try to minimize, again, having him in the car with us doing functions or going anywhere, so she wouldn't have to deal with his panic attacks. But, at the same time, he missed out a lot. He missed out a lot in our lives and doing things together. So I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice. Do I just do all the things and have fun with my child so she could have good memories? Or do I push to have him be involved and, allow him to have these panic attacks and anxiety attacks and just ruin the whole day for us and have my daughter be traumatized by it, to the point where she wouldn't want to participate anymore. So that was very difficult. And we did end up, having to put him aside a lot so she wouldn't be impacted by his anxiety as much. Now, this is, puts pressure on, you know, if you are dealing with somebody that's going through depression or anxiety, it is very stressful to be that one person that has to take care of the person that is going through this. Now, I do understand, being that I have gone through depression, what it feels like and what it is to feel so isolated and to feel like you're closed in, um, and not having that support. So I wanted to make sure that I was there for him, being able to support him and give him whatever I could, um, the tools and for him to get the help that he needed. A lot of times he would reject that. You can't force help on anyone. They have to be willing to accept the help. And so I wanted to be supportive because I understood what it's like to be in that position. Because if it was the other way around, if I was going through what he was going through, I wanted him to be there for me as well. And we're in this partnership. We entered into this marriage, this partnership, to be supportive of each other. And we have been in that way. So whenever I'm going through something, he's there for me to support me. And I wanted to be there to support him because if I was going through that same thing, I would want him to be there supporting me. But here's one thing. When we are dealing with a spouse, a child, a relative that is going through or experiencing depression and severe anxiety, we have to also take care of ourselves. We won't be able to support that person if we ourselves don't feel good. So it's really important that we do self-care, that we reach out for help as well, because if it becomes overwhelming and stressful for us, we will end up getting sick as well. And then, we're creating a whole situation that's going to be very difficult, because now instead of having one person that is sick, we have 2 people or 3 people in the household that are not functioning correctly. So if you see yourself that, if you're in that environment, you are trying to support somebody in your household that it's going through this, and you find yourself that you don't have, the energy, you don't have the motivation, you're starting to feel like drained, dealing with this person, it's a sign that you also need help. You need support. And that's very important, because there's no way you will be able to help your spouse, your child, or whoever it is, properly if you yourself are not feeling good. So that's very, very important, because when you feel good and you feel motivated, you're able to have the patience and the motivation to guide that person to get the right help, to push them to, seek the help that they need so they can get better. Now, if you're not feeling good yourself, what's going to happen is you're going to create friction. You're going to be fighting all the time. You're going to start blaming each other. It's your fault. It's my fault. And then you're going to create anger, because then you're going to start, having anger towards that person, that they're the reason why you don't feel good and your life now is not as good as it should be. So it's really important that we seek support, we seek help, so that we can be there for our loved ones, so we can be there to guide them in the right direction, instead of being their enemy, and causing friction and just imagine being in their shoes, right? They're already not feeling good. They feel like, totally disconnected from the world and from themselves. They feel, they have lost hope in life, that nothing makes sense anymore, and their will to live is diminishing. So if you just picture yourself in their shoes, and then imagine if you start causing friction in addition to how they feel, what you're going to do is kind of push them over the edge and make them feel even worse. So you're going to make the situation much worse than what it is. So it's really important we seek the help that we need. So we have, the patience, the motivation, and the strength, really, to guide them in the right direction, to be there, to be their support system, and be willing to listen to what is it that they're going through. And sometimes we don't even know what they're going through. It's really hard to understand exactly what are they feeling, what are they going through. And we need to allow space for them to communicate properly, instead of pushing them and yelling and saying, what's the matter with you? You're just closed off in your room. You don't talk to anybody. So instead of coming out and attacking them, just be more compassionate, right? Be a little more compassionate and approach it in a different way. Say, I just noticed you more withdrawn. We would like you to be more involved. Is there anything going on? Would you like to talk about it? Was there anything that I've done that maybe is pushing you away? And try to show love instead of resentment and anger, because that just gonna make things even make them feel even worse than what they're going through. So I hope this story helps you if you're going through the same experience, that you don't have to live like this for the rest of your life. So a lot of times what I have seen through my clients is they will adapt to the situation. So their relative will be sickness. That's just the way it is, and that's always going to be that way. And you kind of get used to being the caretaker, and you kind of, get used to it, and you feel comfortable taking care of this person, and that's also not good as well. So you're not doing any justice to, your loved one or to yourself by just saying, this is just the way it is, and that's how it's always going to be. It's always been like this forever, and they're not going to change. So if you have that mindset, then yeah, nothing's going to change. So you have to, also be proactive and get some help, because if you don't be the right support system for that person, they will never go out and reach for help if you don't kind of push them to get the help. So don't get stuck in the comfort zone either, just taking care of them like they're babies, that they're always going to be, there are ways of overcoming depression and anxiety. They don't have to live this way forever. They can get out of it. They can get the right help. So don't be stuck in that. This is how it's going to be for the rest, of our lives. This is our life. It doesn't have to be that way. But the other thing is, you have to know, what kind of life do you want to live? What is the ideal life that you want to live? Did you choose to live this way? Is this, did you create this situation because you feel comfortable at being the caretaker of a sick person? Or did it just happen and you kind of just, took on that role? And you have to really, think about it, like, what is the ideal life that you'd like to have if this situation wasn't happening, right? A lot of times we don't know. If this person got better all of a sudden, they were functioning 100%, then you would be like, well, what do I do now? I was devoted to taking care of them and their needs, and now I no longer have to do that. What do I do now? That's also something you have to think about. So there are a lot of things that can affect you. And if there's children involved, just know they're always going to get affected by it. They pick up on it very easily. Um, and sometimes you just can't prevent it. And that's understandable, right? We can't prevent every single thing from happening and put the children inside of bubbles. They will get over it eventually. They'll be able to get the right help to deal with the situation. So I hope by me sharing the story, it will help you or guide you in some way to get the right support so that you take the right steps and be able to support that person in your life that is going through a severe struggle. And it is an illness, just like as if they had broken their arm or their leg. You have to take care of them and look at them that same way if they're going through depression or anxiety. So if somebody had broken their leg and they needed rest and they needed taken care of and brought to the right doctors, somebody's going through depression, anxiety is the same thing. They need, the proper care so they can, get out of it and start functioning, and get back into their lives again. And they need your support, because if you're not there to support them, it's going to just make it so much harder for them to, be able to recoup and get out of that imprisonment of depression and anxiety. So, I hope this has been a helpful story for you. And if you do need support in some way, feel free to reach out. I always have my link to my website where you can schedule a call with me right beneath my videos. And, my husband was able, in a holistic way, recover from the depression and anxiety, and just like I did. And, your loved ones can too. And they don't have to spend years on talk therapy and taking all these drugs that might have really bad side effects. You can heal in a very holistic way, and it doesn't have to take forever to really come out of those emotional states. So reach out to, for help if you need help. Ask questions, do some research. There's so many things out there that are beneficial. Just taking one small step, in the right direction can make a big difference. So for today, thank you so much for listening. I hope I've inspired you in some way, somehow. And please, like the videos, share, subscribe, so when these videos come out every week, you get notified. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.